Sucks. Got to give a lot of credit to them. They executed better than us all day today, and had a great game plan and executed that game plan better than we did. I got to be better. I got to do a lot of things better, and I'll open up to any questions.
J.J., where does that start for you, just getting better from this?
Getting on the plane and watching the film, and continuing to just stack the days and wake up every single day ready to get better, and just make small increments each and every day, and continuing to just perfect my craft, and the weaknesses that are exposed, make sure I'm on track with those and getting back to the right spot every week.
J.J., where is your confidence level at right now?
Confidence is always high, no matter what, because of the guys in that room, because of the trust.
The Minnesota Vikings faithful thought they had found their savior. A national championship-winning quarterback from Michigan with a spotless 27-1 record as a starter, selected in the top 10 of the NFL draft, ready to lead their franchise into a new era of glory. Instead, what they got was something nobody could have predicted: a struggling young quarterback who unveiled an intense alter ego named Nine at precisely the worst possible moment in his professional career. This isn't just another story about a confident young player trying to find his competitive edge. This is a cautionary tale about how self-branding can spectacularly backfire when your performance doesn't match your persona, and how the unforgiving spotlight of the NFL can transform a promising prospect into a walking meme in just a few short weeks. J.J. McCarthy's revelation about his game day alter ego came in November of 2025, right after the Vikings squeaked out a 27-24 victory over the Detroit Lions. The cameras caught McCarthy in the locker room with an intensity that bordered on disturbing. His eyes had that 1,000-yard stare. He was nodding to himself, completely locked in, looking like a man possessed by something beyond normal competitive fire. Teammates and coaches started calling him a psychopath and a killer, terms usually reserved for elite competitors who dominate their opponents. Head coach Kevin O'Connell even joked that he needed to get out of McCarthy's way for his own personal safety while handing the young quarterback the game ball. The moment seemed electric, the kind of viral clip that builds a quarterback's mystique and makes fans believe they've got something special. Naturally, reporters wanted to know what was going through McCarthy's head during these intense moments. They expected the usual athlete speak about being locked in, staying focused, executing the game plan. What they got instead was a full-on character reveal that would have felt more at home in a comic book origin story than a post-game press conference. McCarthy didn't just describe a mindset shift or a zone he enters during competition. He introduced the world to a completely separate identity that allegedly takes over on game days, a personality he had named and cultivated, one that existed independently of his regular self. McCarthy explained that there's definitely a level of switch that gets flipped when he takes the field. He calls this alternate version of himself 9, after his jersey number, and spoke about it as though it were a separate entity that emerges when competition demands it. He described how 9 can't maintain peak performance throughout the entire 3.5 hours of a football game, so he's developed techniques on the sideline to manage this intensity. He talks about getting back to his breath, returning to visualization exercises, finding little ways to maintain what he calls his intense competitive stamina throughout the whole game. It's all very methodical, very thought out, the kind of mental preparation you'd expect from a seasoned veteran, not a rookie making his first starts in the league. But then McCarthy took it even further. He described 9 as representing pure will and determination, something unique that he loves feeding. He talked about how his entire life, including his time at Michigan, had been about maintaining a positive mindset. He used to draw a smiley face on his hand as a reminder to have fun, operating under the philosophy that if you're smiling and enjoying yourself, you're going to play better football. That's a pretty standard sports psychology approach, the kind of thing you hear from athletes all the time. But McCarthy explained that he'd discovered something he believed was even more powerful than positive thinking. He talked about the power that comes from built-up anger, from rage that can be transmuted into performance, channeled into something productive rather than destructive. According to McCarthy, this intensity really started to show up during his rookie season, but not because he was playing. In fact, it emerged precisely because he wasn't playing. McCarthy spent his entire first year in the NFL on injured reserve after tearing his meniscus. For a competitive athlete who had barely tasted defeat in college, watching from the sidelines while unable to contribute must have been excruciating. He described never having a full season where he wanted to be on the field so desperately, but simply couldn't participate. The frustration built up over months. The anger accumulated game after game that he couldn't play. It created this reservoir of rage that was ready to explode, and McCarthy made a conscious decision to harness that anger instead of letting it spiral into something self-destructive. In his mind, he was taking a negative emotion and weaponizing it, turning his frustration into fuel for his performance. On the surface, this all sounds reasonably impressive. Plenty of elite athletes have pre-game rituals and mental preparation techniques. Some visualize success. Others use anger as motivation. The greatest competitors often talk about finding that edge, that thing that elevates their performance when everything is on the line. But here's where J.J. McCarthy's situation becomes not just unusual but genuinely embarrassing. He revealed this intense, angry alter ego immediately after throwing for just 143 yards with 2 touchdowns and 1 interception against Detroit. Those aren't the numbers of an unleashed beast dominating the competition. Those are the numbers of a game manager having a slightly above-average afternoon. Those are the statistics of a quarterback who didn't hurt his team, but certainly didn't elevate them either. The internet, predictably, lost its collective mind. Social media erupted with mockery that ranged from gentle ribbing to absolutely savage takedowns. One user tweeted that 9 was apparently helping McCarthy throw for 145 yards and 1 interception, suggesting that perhaps this alter ego wasn't quite the competitive advantage McCarthy seemed to think it was. Another posted a picture trying to make McCarthy look vicious and intimidating, with a caption dripping with sarcasm about the gap between persona and performance. The comparisons started flying, with people likening McCarthy's 9 persona to other athletes who had created cringe-worthy alter egos that far exceeded their actual accomplishments. The most common comparison was to a content creator who had become infamous for his delusional self-aggrandizement, a connection that highlighted just how poorly timed McCarthy's revelation really was. Even if McCarthy had been absolutely dominating the league, people would still have made fun of the 9 persona to some degree. Creating an alter ego and talking about it in third person is inherently a bit ridiculous, the kind of thing that invites mockery even when you're backing it up with elite performance. But the fact that McCarthy was having such a profoundly mediocre season while talking like he was channeling some inner demon made the whole situation infinitely more absurd. It was like watching someone put on war paint and scream battle cries before getting thoroughly dominated in a pillow fight. The gap between the mythology he was creating and the reality of his performance was so vast that it became impossible not to laugh. For those wondering just how mediocre McCarthy's performance has been, the statistics tell a brutal story. When you compare his first 5 games to Zach Wilson's first 5 games in the NFL, the similarities are striking and deeply concerning for Vikings fans who remember how Wilson's career with the Jets went. Wilson actually accumulated more passing yards than McCarthy in those opening games. Wilson threw 2 fewer touchdowns but only 1 more interception. The real difference comes in completion percentage, where McCarthy's accuracy issues become impossible to ignore. Through those first 5 games, McCarthy had thrown for just 842 passing yards total, a shockingly low number that suggests either extreme conservative play calling or an inability to push the ball down the field effectively. These numbers become even more damning when you consider the weapons McCarthy has at his disposal. He's throwing to Justin Jefferson, arguably the best wide receiver in the entire NFL, and certainly a top 3 talent at the position. He has Jordan Addison, a former first-round pick who has already shown the ability to be a legitimate number 2 receiver. He has T.J. Hawkinson at tight end, one of the better pass-catching options at that position in the league. His running back room, when healthy, features Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason, two backs capable of keeping defenses honest and creating favorable passing situations. This isn't a situation where a young quarterback is being asked to do everything himself with limited talent around him. This is one of the most complete rosters in football, built specifically to support a developing quarterback and put him in position to succeed. On top of all that offensive talent, McCarthy has the benefit of playing for Kevin O'Connell, a head coach who has earned a reputation throughout the league as a genuine quarterback whisperer. O'Connell completely revitalized Sam Darnold's career after Darnold had been written off as a bust by most of the football world. O'Connell's offensive system is considered quarterback-friendly, designed to create easy completions and build confidence while still allowing for explosive plays down the field. If there was ever a perfect situation for a young quarterback to come in and succeed immediately, the Minnesota Vikings theoretically provided it. Yet, despite all these advantages, McCarthy was posting numbers that would be concerning for a rookie thrust into a terrible situation, let alone someone with this much talent around him. Through his first 4 games, McCarthy completed just 58 of 108 passes, a completion rate of barely over 50%. That's unacceptable in the modern NFL, where offensive systems are designed to create easy completions and where even average quarterbacks typically complete at least 60% of their attempts. He threw for only 692 yards in those 4 games, averaging less than 200 yards per game, which would rank dead last in the league if projected across a full season. His touchdown-to-interception ratio was actually negative, with 5 touchdowns against 6 interceptions, meaning he was actively hurting his team's chances of winning more often than he was helping them score. The advanced metrics paint an even uglier picture of McCarthy's struggles. Among 37 quarterbacks who had at least 100 dropbacks through that point in the season, McCarthy's 53.7% completion rate ranked dead last. His passer rating of 65.8 was also the worst in the league among qualified quarterbacks. These aren't just bad numbers for a rookie. These are bad numbers for any quarterback at any level of professional football. His quarterback rating of 26.7 was almost impossibly low, suggesting that his team would likely be better off running the ball on every single down rather than letting him throw. When analysts dove deeper into the tape and the tracking data, they found some truly concerning trends. McCarthy's on-target percentage, which measures how often his passes are accurate regardless of whether they're caught, was significantly below the league average of 74.5%. More alarmingly, he led the entire NFL in bad throw percentage at 24.1%. That means nearly 1 in every 4 passes McCarthy attempted was so poorly thrown that it had essentially no chance of being completed. Those aren't just minor accuracy issues that can be cleaned up with a bit of coaching. Those are fundamental problems with ball placement and decision-making that suggest a quarterback who isn't remotely ready for this level of competition. Here's what makes the 9 alter ego even more hilarious in retrospect. McCarthy isn't struggling because the game is moving too fast for him mentally. Analysts who have broken down his tape extensively have noted that he actually demonstrates a pretty solid understanding of where to go with the football. He's reading defenses reasonably well for a young player. He's going through his progressions in a logical order. His pre-snap recognition is actually ahead of where many rookie quarterbacks are at this stage. The mental side of the game, which is often what trips up young quarterbacks, doesn't seem to be McCarthy's primary problem. No, the issue is that 9, his intense, angry alter ego, is apparently making him too amped up to execute the physical side of quarterbacking. CBS sports analyst J.P. Acosta wrote an absolutely devastating breakdown of what's going wrong with McCarthy's mechanics. According to Acosta, every throw McCarthy has missed this season looks fundamentally the same. He's so amped up and tight as a passer that he's throwing his entire body into passes that have no business being thrown with maximum velocity. He's treating every single throw like it needs to set records on a radar gun, launching fastballs when the situation calls for touch passes. His mechanics are completely breaking down because he's rushing through them, as if the game is moving too fast for him, even though the mental processing suggests he knows exactly what he should be doing. Think about the absurdity of this for a moment. J.J. McCarthy created an alter ego specifically designed to channel his built-up anger and competitive fire into productive performance. The whole point of 9 was to give him an edge, to unlock a level of intensity that would make him better than his regular self. Instead, that alter ego is literally making him worse at football. The anger and intensity he's channeling is causing him to overthrow receivers, to put too much velocity on throws that require finesse, to muscle passes when he should be using touch. It's like deciding you need to be angrier and more intense to become a better surgeon, then wondering why your hands are too shaky to make precise incisions. The tool McCarthy created to improve his performance is actively sabotaging him. This dynamic explains why McCarthy has a completion rate of just 52.9%. Why his touchdown-to-interception ratio is underwater at 68-82, and why he's averaging only 168 yards per game through his first 5 starts. But statistics only tell part of the story. To really understand how badly McCarthy is playing, you need to watch the film and see exactly what's happening on the field when things break down. Let's examine 3 specific plays from the Vikings game against the Bears that perfectly illustrate the various ways McCarthy is struggling. The first play comes on Minnesota's opening drive of the game. The Vikings face a 3rd down and 3 situation from their own 48-yard line, already in a pressure situation early in the game. Converting here would move the chains into Chicago territory and give Minnesota excellent field position to potentially score on their opening possession. Failing to convert would create a difficult decision for O'Connell. Go for it on 4th down in your own territory, or punt the ball away and give Chicago a chance to grab an early lead. It's the kind of manageable 3rd down situation where you'd expect a competent quarterback to find a way to move the chains, especially with the weapons McCarthy has available. Chicago recognizes the importance of this down and loads the box, putting 7 defenders on the line of scrimmage and daring the young quarterback to make a quick decision and an accurate throw. The Bears are bringing pressure and essentially forcing McCarthy to execute under duress, exactly the kind of situation where elite quarterbacks separate themselves from the pretenders. To Minnesota's credit, they've schemed this up well. They've isolated Justin Jefferson on the weak side of the field in single coverage, knowing that Chicago is bringing heat and won't be able to provide safety help over the top. It's a simple concept. Beat the blitz by getting the ball to your best player quickly against man coverage. McCarthy actually makes the right read here. He identifies the blitz pre-snap. He knows Jefferson is going to be one-on-one. When the ball is snapped and Jefferson runs a quick 5-yard out route to get past the first down marker with space, McCarthy doesn't hesitate. He pulls the trigger and fires the ball toward his star receiver. Everything about this play is executed correctly from a mental standpoint. McCarthy did exactly what the coaching staff would have wanted him to do. There's just one massive problem. The throw is wildly inaccurate. McCarthy completely airmails Jefferson, throwing the ball several feet over his head and out of bounds. It's not even close to catchable. Now, there's a defender showing a few yards in front of the play who might have influenced McCarthy's decision to throw high and away from danger. That's being generous. But even if we give McCarthy that benefit of the doubt, the throw is so far off target that it suggests a fundamental mechanical breakdown. This is Justin Jefferson running a simple out route against single coverage. This is the kind of throw that NFL quarterbacks need to be able to make in their sleep. It's not asking McCarthy to thread a needle into tight coverage or to drop a perfect deep ball into a bucket 40 yards down the field. It's a basic intermediate throw to a wide-open receiver, and McCarthy can't execute it. The Vikings punt, giving Chicago the ball back, and an opportunity to convert a manageable 3rd down evaporates because the quarterback physically couldn't complete a routine throw. This might seem like a relatively minor mistake in the grand scheme of a football game, It's just one incompletion on one drive early in the first quarter. But these plays accumulate. They add up over the course of a game and a season. The difference between winning and losing in the NFL often comes down to 1 or 2 plays per game, converting one additional third down that keeps a drive alive that eventually results in points, or making one throw that your opponent's quarterback can't make in a critical moment. When your quarterback is missing throws like this multiple times per game, you're essentially spotting the opposition points and possessions. For a Vikings team that's trying to compete in a tough division, these missed opportunities are devastating. The second play comes late in the first half with just under 4 minutes remaining before halftime. Minnesota has the ball on their own 31-yard line in a 1st and 10 situation. The Vikings are trying to put together a drive to get some points before the break, desperate for any kind of momentum after a frustrating first half. This is where competent quarterback play becomes crucial. You don't need to be spectacular here. You just need to be solid, to execute the plays as designed, to avoid giving the ball away cheaply. Move the chains, eat some clock, get into field goal range at minimum. That's all the situation requires. Minnesota comes out in a pistol formation with fullback C.J. Ham motioning across the formation pre-snap toward the strong side of the field. This motion is deliberately obvious, designed to make the defense think a run is coming to that side. McCarthy takes the snap before Ham reaches his position and executes a play-action fake to Aaron Jones in the backfield. Post-snap, tight end Josh Oliver pulls over to the right side, selling the run action even further by acting like a run blocker. From a design standpoint, this is a beautifully conceived play-action concept. Everything about the window dressing should be getting the Chicago defense to bite on the run, creating one-on-one matchups down the field for Minnesota's receivers. There's just one problem, and it's a significant one. Despite the play-action fake, Chicago's pass rushers are still executing their stunts and working through their rushes. The Minnesota offensive line, which has been jumbled up by all the pre-snap motion and pulling linemen, is struggling to pick up the pressure. Gaps are opening up that shouldn't exist. Aaron Jones, who stayed in to pass protect after the play-action fake, finds himself matched up in the backfield against Chicago's safety C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Jones actually does a pretty admirable job here, laying a solid block on initial contact and giving McCarthy time to find an open receiver. But McCarthy makes a critical error in reading the rush. For reasons that are difficult to explain when watching the tape, he seems to assume that Jones is going to miss his block entirely. Instead of stepping up into the pocket where Jones has actually created a clean throwing lane, McCarthy steps up directly into where the pressure is coming from. He's moving right into the defenders instead of away from them. This is a fundamental mistake in pocket presence, the kind of error that rookie quarterbacks make when they're not processing information quickly enough. By the time McCarthy realizes his mistake and tries to get rid of the ball, he already has a defender wrapped around his legs. The throw that results from this awkward platform is predictably terrible. The ball comes out with almost no velocity, essentially floating through the air like a wounded duck. Chicago safety Kevin Byard, who already has 5 interceptions on the season and is developing a reputation as a ball hawk, doesn't even need to make a particularly impressive play. He simply positions himself under the floating pass and makes an easy interception, his league-leading 6th pick of the year. Just like that, Chicago has the ball back with a chance to add to their lead before halftime. What should have been a drive to build momentum and possibly score points has turned into a turnover that gives the opponent an additional possession. This is exactly the kind of play that causes coaches to lose confidence in young quarterbacks. The frustrating part about this interception is that it's completely avoidable. If McCarthy simply stands in the pocket where his running back has actually created space, he has time to find an open receiver or throw the ball away. If he recognizes the pressure correctly and escapes to his right or left instead of stepping into it, he avoids the defender entirely. If he just decides to take the sack instead of throwing off his back foot with a defender around his legs, He lives to fight another down. Any of these decisions would be better than what actually happened. Instead, McCarthy compounded one mistake with another, turning a somewhat pressured situation into a catastrophic turnover at the worst possible moment. Every possession matters in the NFL, and when you're giving away free possessions with careless decisions, you're drastically lowering your team's chances of winning. The third and final play perfectly illustrates the physical limitations that are holding McCarthy back. The Vikings have driven into Chicago territory and have the ball at the Bears' 30-yard line in another 1st and 10 situation. This is an excellent position. They're well within field goal range, so they've already secured some potential points. But with the game still in reach and the Vikings needing a touchdown to tie, this is also an opportunity to take a shot and potentially score 7 instead of settling for 3. All McCarthy needs to do is avoid turning the ball over. Make a smart decision, execute a clean throw, and keep the drive alive. That's the baseline expectation. On this particular play, the Vikings' offensive line provides McCarthy with arguably the cleanest pocket he had all game long. The protection is perfect. There's no pressure coming from anywhere. McCarthy has all the time in the world to go through his progressions and find the open receiver. And to his credit, he actually does go through his reads like a seasoned veteran, scanning the field methodically and working through his options in a logical order. From a mental processing standpoint, this is exactly what you want to see from a young quarterback. He's not panicking. He's not locking onto his first read. He's doing everything right from a cerebral perspective. McCarthy identifies Jordan Addison running a go route down the right sideline in single coverage against Chicago cornerback Nan Wright. Addison has actually managed to get a step on Wright, creating separation down the field. This is a golden opportunity. If McCarthy can just place this ball over Wright's outside shoulder where only Addison can make a play on it, it's a walk-in touchdown. The Vikings would tie the game with one throw, completely erasing Chicago's momentum and giving themselves a fresh start. This is the kind of play that franchise quarterbacks make, the throws that win games and build confidence. Everything is set up perfectly for McCarthy to deliver. But when McCarthy releases the football, it's immediately clear something is wrong. The ball comes out with nowhere near enough velocity to beat the defensive back. It's floating, hanging in the air, giving Wright plenty of time to read it, locate it, and position himself. What should have been a touchdown turns into a jump ball. And it's actually a jump ball that favors the defensive back because of how poorly the pass is thrown. Nan Wright goes up at the high point and comes down with the interception, snuffing out Minnesota's momentum and effectively ending their chances in this game. From that moment forward, Chicago took control and never looked back. Vikings fans who had been optimistic about mounting a comeback were left staring at yet another McCarthy turnover in disbelief. Here's what's so damning about this particular interception. This isn't a throw where McCarthy needed to be perfect. He didn't need to drop a dime into an impossibly tight window. His receiver had beaten the coverage. He had a clean pocket. He had time to set his feet and deliver an accurate pass. Every single element of this play was in McCarthy's favor, except for one thing: his physical execution. The throw itself was so poorly delivered that it essentially gift-wrapped an interception for the defense. If you're going to make a mistake as a quarterback, the bare minimum is that you have to give your receiver a chance. Either throw it where he can catch it, or at least throw it where he can break up the incoming interception attempt. But McCarthy did neither. He placed the ball directly into the defensive back's hands as if he was the intended receiver. This play encapsulates everything that's going wrong with McCarthy's physical tools and execution. NFL quarterbacks need to be able to make this throw consistently. This is the kind of ball that separates professionals from college players. And if they do make a mistake, they need to fail in a way that doesn't result in turnovers. An overthrow here would have been fine. Just an incompletion and a chance to try again on second down. An underthrow that Addison could contest would have been acceptable, giving your playmaker a chance to make a play. But floating a ball into single coverage with insufficient velocity such that the defensive back can make an easy play? That's unacceptable at this level.